And Angie, can you hand her the mic, please, to Malaika? Thank you. Okay, hey everyone, I'm Elisa Parker. We're broadcasting live here on the Wild and Scenic Film Fest Facebook page and live from the 17th Annual Film Fest. It's the largest film fest of its kind. We have an extraordinary group of people in here. Everyone can do a shout out. Completed our third Women's March in Nevada City, and now we are here taking part in the Women's March Roundtable discussion with some extraordinary women that have joined us here to participate both in this festival, and really they are, when we talk about wisdom keepers and women who are showing up to protect our planet, but also it's deeply connected to all of us as human beings. And I'm just so excited. Let's give it up for all of these amazing women. So first we have Catherine Flowers, who came here from Alabama, and she is in a film called The Accidental Environmentalist. Let's give it up for Catherine. Bernadette, who I mentioned earlier, is joining us all the way from the Arctic in Alaska. She's part of joining us through Earth Justice, a great virtual reality experience at KVMR. Let's give it up for Bernadette. Clare Dubois, who is the founder of Tree Sisters, who just moved here to Nevada City, and we're excited to have her both in our community and all the great work she's doing as well. And we have Teresa Baker. She's the founder of African American Nature and Parks Experience. She's also part of a film here at Wild and Scenic, and we're thrilled to have her back here. She's getting ready for a couple other new projects. You're going to hear more about that. Let's give it up for Teresa Baker. And finally, we have Malaika Bishop. She is the co-founder of Sierra Harvest, which is transforming our community and creating relationships between our farmers, our foods, and having healthy lunches for our kids. Let's give it up for Malaika. Mention Alesia Lewis, who is going to be here with us. She got stuck in Washington, D.C. due to the weather. She's been doing awesome work with We Said Enough and also the Latinx community. She's from Sacramento. We'll have her back up here again soon. So first, what I'd like to do is invite each and every one of you. First, thank you so much for being here, for all being patient. We've been hanging out for a little bit to get this going. I'm going to start with you, Catherine. I've invited all of them to share just a bit of their personal story and the work they're doing and how they actually got to this place of where they are now. So should we start with Catherine? All right, Catherine.
Wow. Well, I'm first of all, I'm a country girl who have always had a deep appreciation for nature. My father was very instrumental in that, in teaching us how to watch the fur on the animals and watch the trees to determine what the weather was going to be, or whether we were going to have a bad winter or a light winter for us. But I've noticed that over the years that these things have changed, and what brought me here was when I went back home, moved back to Alabama, after having worked as a teacher, I noticed that people were still living with raw sewage on the ground. And I've since learned that this is a problem throughout a lot of rural communities here in the United States. Because as we talk about Flint and flawed infrastructure, places like where Lowndes County, Alabama, they have never had any type of infrastructure investment, because the way the policy is written, if you're not incorporated, you don't get access to the funds. And public funds are not available for unincorporated communities usually. And as a result, a lot of people are straight piping. And then there's some ecological factors as well, which I won't go into, but to keep it kind of brief, I was bitten by mosquitoes, broke out in a rash. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. All my blood tests were coming back normal. And I asked my doctor, is it possible that what I had could be something that American doctors would not train to look for, because they don't expect raw sewage to be on the ground here in the United States. This is supposed to be somewhere else, as Trump said, the shithole countries of the world. So anyway, I I partnered with Dr. Peter Hotez, who is a renowned tropical disease expert at Baylor's National School of Tropical Medicine. And we did a study which was published in 2017 where we found evidence of tropical parasites in Lowndes County, Alabama, which shows the intersection between climate change, health and environmental justice. And this is also a water issue because wastewater is a water issue and water is life. So I met with, during the 50th anniversary of the Selma March, a reporter came to me that's now here on the West Coast. His name is Paul Lewis, he's with The Guardian. And Paul came to me and said, I heard about this study that you've done. We would like to break that story. And he said, I can guarantee you international attention. So I said, well, we have to go through peer review first. And because if it doesn't go through peer review and we announce this before we do that process, the state is going to discount it. And he said, we will wait. And they waited 3 years. And they broke the story in September of 2017. Along with that, the UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty was visiting the United States doing an official visit. And I invited him to come to Lowndes County. He accepted my invitation. And when he gave his, first of all, when he got there and made national news, when he saw what I've been trying to articulate for 15 years now, and when he saw this, he said, a reporter asked him, have you ever seen this? Did you expect to see this here? And he said, this is very uncommon in the first world. And as a result, that made national news. When he gave his report before the UN Human Rights Council, I happened to be there. I was sponsored by somebody from California. And it was during the time that Nikki Haley had withdrawn the United States from the Human Rights Council. And in her speech, she said that it was a cesspool, which was a great segue for Philip Austin to do his report. And he said, before he gave his report, he said, Catherine, I need you to listen carefully. And I did, and when he gave his report to the UN Council on Human Rights, he started off talking about Lowndes County. And again, we got international attention, and people are just shocked to know that rural communities, this rural community, but there are rural communities throughout the United States with raw sewage on the ground. And what my challenge is to try to identify those communities and give voice to them so as we talk about infrastructure, that these communities will not continue to be left behind.
Catherine, what is the organization you're the director of that you founded, and also you're a fellow too with another group?
Yeah, I founded the Alabama Center for Rural Enterprise, but I'm evolving into the Center for Rural Enterprise and Environmental Justice so that we can do our work more nationally instead of just in Alabama. And I'm also a senior fellow with the Center for Earth Ethics, which was founded by Corinna Gore, and is at Union Theological Seminary. And I'm also the job that pays my salary. I have to say that, but I should have said that one first. I am the Rural Development Manager for the Equal Justice Initiative, which was founded by Brian Stevenson.
Awesome. Bernadette, you're also the executive director of GSE. Is it Gwich'in?
Gwich'in.
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 Welcome. Thank you for being here in Nevada City at Wild and Scenic.
Thank you for having me. Shorji Bernadette Demientieff Oji, Shorji Betty Flit Oji, Kuchajak Kutsahili. My name is Bernadette Demientieff, and I am from Fort Yukon, Alaska. I'm here on behalf of the Gwich'in Nation of Alaska and Canada at the direction of our elders to share the story of the Gwich'in. At the very first gathering that was held in over 150 years, it was in Arctic Village in 1988. And it was the first time our people gathered like that. And it was because of oil and gas development in the coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. To my people, it's called Ijikwatsan, Gondai Gotlit, the sacred place where life begins. It's so sacred to us that we do not step foot there. We're forbidden. Our elders have always told us that this place is the calving grounds to the Porcupine Caribou herd. And the Gwich'in and the Porcupine Caribou herd have had a cultural and spiritual connection for over 40,000 years. We would migrate. If you look at the migratory route and the Gwich'in communities of Alaska and Canada, they're identical. The only thing is we don't go to the coastal plain, and still to this day we don't. And Trump's administration opened it to oil and gas development, December 2017. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard for us to accept people coming into our homelands, making decisions about our future, and they're not involving us. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. Something that takes like 4 years, they're trying to jam pack in 1 year. They're using studies from 1983. Right now in Alaska, we're thawing twice the rate as the rest of the world. We have 33 coastal communities that are falling into the ocean. And I know that ticks are something that's, I've been asking everybody if they know what ticks are. Everybody knows it but me. I never knew what ticks were until last April. And I'm from Fort Yukon, which is 8 miles above the Arctic Circle. And one of my girlfriends that I grew up with sent me a photo, and it had these big black things all over the face, and I thought it was tumors. Come to find out they're ticks. And then there's another photo of a ground squirrel where my daughter plays in a park in Fairbanks. And that one was infected with ticks also. You know, for 30 years, the Gwich'in have been protecting the coastal plain of the Arctic Refuge. And every 2 years, we do come together and reaffirm our commitment to protect the calving grounds. And the virtual reality that Earth Justice partnered with shares a little bit of that, shares a little bit of our, and you know, my common sense is not your guys' common sense, and the way I grew up is not the way other people grew up, and it's just a different world on this way. There's so much concrete, and it's so busy, and you know, me personally, what brought me here is I lost my identity after high school. I didn't take the right path. I didn't make the right decisions. Probably embarrassed my parents more times than I could count. But in 2014, I went to the Shenle. It's a mountain in Arctic Village. It's on the ancestral path of the Gwich'in. And when I went there, I was just overwhelmed. I don't know why. I just started crying. And you know, but I could close my eyes right now and I can see the beauty, and it's what I took for granted. And now that it could be taken and destroyed, it scares me. But right there, I asked Creator for forgiveness for being disconnected for so long. But I'm here now to share in my responsibility as a Gwich'in. And that responsibility is to protect the Porcupine Caribou herd. A long time ago, we made a pact with them. There was a time we were able to communicate with them, and we made a pact to always take care of each other. And they've held up their end. They've taken care of us for thousands of years, and now it's my turn to use my voice. And it's just not for them, it's for all the other animals that are there. 95% of the Arctic is already open to oil and gas development. This is the remaining 5%, and this is the heart of my people. And the herds that are in the other 95% have all declined. The central herd has declined 57% since 2010. So you can't tell me that my food security is not going to be affected, not when I see different. You know, in Alaska right now, we're on a sinking ship, and our elected leadership is not listening to us. So that's, you know, why I leave the comfort of my home, and I get it. You know, I have to do things that I'm not comfortable with, but I have to do it because I have 5 grandchildren that I don't want to be struggling to survive because I didn't use my voice when I had the chance to. So I really encourage you guys to, you know, get involved, because I'm going to tell you, climate change don't care where we're at. We're all going to be affected, and we need to start preparing. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you for having me, Ms. Cho.
Thank you, Bernadette. Thank you for being here, Bernadette. I've been talking for a long time. If I start coughing or I have to move out for a minute, it's not because of the stories. I want to make sure everyone can hear you. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Clare Dubois of Tree Sisters. It's an honor to have you here with us too. Are you ready to share?
No.
Okay. Do you want to? We can go on to.
No, it's fine. I actually think one of the ways in which women are really lucky is that we can cry.
Yeah.
And even if they think that we're less than because we cry, we know that it is a hell of a lot more courageous to let yourself feel it than it is to not feel it. And every time we let ourselves feel it, we come closer to everything that matters. And every time we block ourselves from feeling it, we sever ourselves from part of the whole. So I'm all for snot.
I'm gonna let you go while I get my water.
And I'll probably just sit here and cry. It's my special gift. I'm so desperately sorry for what's happening. I just can't even. This is where something intelligent is supposed to come out of my mouth. We'll wait and see. So my background was actually sickness more than anything else. I've been ill for the majority of my life, and I think I'm one of those canaries in the gold mine that is just going, fabric of our world is falling apart, the fabric of our world is falling apart, and as we tear it apart, we're being torn apart too. And my fascination was always consciousness, you know. Why are we the way we are? Because if we were in balance, this wouldn't be happening. I never had any formal training in anything apart from fashion design, which I designed underwear. That was deeply exciting for about for about 5 minutes, and then I got sick. And it's like you stand there going, really, this is what I'm doing? What the hell happened? You know. And but that was me trying to spite my father. So I had a very, very misogynistic father who refused to acknowledge that I'd been born because I was female, and who refused to believe that women had any intelligence whatsoever, and therefore they didn't need to be schooled. And luckily or unluckily, I was highly intelligent as a youngster, and so I was his greatest source of humiliation. Because I was not supposed to be educated. But being a really insane female, what I did with that was get myself as educated as I could to throw it away to spite him. So that when he could say, oh, she got a place at Cambridge, or she's doing geophysics or whatever, I could say, actually, I'm going to go and do dressmaking because that's all girls are for. So then I ended up going, why am I making pants? Knickers, or whatever you call them in America. Underwear. And so I didn't make any wise decisions to begin with, but I was fascinated with why we are the way we are. And I was also deeply frustrated with my own victim consciousness as a woman, because that's what I'd been brought up as and in, and was completely full of it. Whichever way I turned, I was shutting myself down and limiting myself and being less than and colluding with this falsity, this lie that women are somehow less. And I was so full of fear. He was a really brutal man, so I was very much like, you know, my life was threatened a lot as a child. And so for me, being female was a source of astonishing fear. But what it did was it made me incredibly aware of how much women are afraid all the time, and it's such a normalized state that we collude with it without, like breathing. You know, there is such colossal power inside a woman, and I'm not saying there's not inside a man, but it's different. There's like a whole different set of woundings that have happened to men and what's happened to women. And so much is lost to this world because we don't know how to tap into the root of our power. Because our power is a source of incredible fear. What if we bring it forward? What if we bring our beauty forward? What if we bring our sensuality or our sexuality, which happens to be the pathway to our felt sense and knowing of connection to the natural world and everything that arises through her that comes through us? You know, it's sensual, it's erotic. Like, nature is erotic and it is limitlessly powerful. That's a woman. You know, that's what we are. How many of us know that? So my turning point, well, two turning points. One was in my early 20s when I started having nightmares about no more clouds. So climate change actually started in England a long time ago. The snow just stopped when I was about 10. And nobody was like, oh, the snow's just stopped. But nobody was talking about climate change. So in my early 20s, I started dreaming no more clouds, which is a traumatic thing if you're British. You know, we do clouds in a really big way. And I was starting to live into the reality of no more rain. And it was viscerally in me. And I would walk around. I was drawing clouds, photographing clouds, like writing poems about clouds. Like I was hanging on to clouds because I couldn't conceive of a world with no clouds. Well, when the Gulf Stream stops, which it's going to pretty damn soon, we don't know what is going to happen to our climate. So I was at a dance workshop where they made us do ritual theatre, which is my idea of complete torture. However, my little group that I was in, we were asked to play the Rape of the Earth. And I decided that I would be Earth because that was something that would be pretty damn simple for me. And so I was dressed in about 100 different layers of clothes and sat on a throne, and they basically raped me. They were just like yanking me apart and doing everything that we know is happening to this precious world of ours. Oh, it makes me so fucking angry, sorry. And by the time I was naked, which I was supposed to like scream and fall on the floor. And as I fell on the floor, this nursery rhyme, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. All the king's horses and all the king's men. And I was sat there going, we're not going to get a second chance. You don't get to put a planet into therapy. And I was just going down and down and down into this complete well of shock of, oh my God, we've got this one chance and one chance only. And I was put back on my seat in complete shock and looked up. The whole room was crying. And that was it. I was gone. I was totally, totally shocked. And then I was sat down afterwards and somebody handed me a present. And I opened it and it was a book with a cloud and said, you can change the world. And I started bawling, the sort of hysterical bawling where part of you's going, it would be really good to leave the room right about now. And another part of you just like, ah! And I went outside and I could not stop howling and I couldn't figure out what's happening. And what was happening was the argument inside me of the part that was going, you're nothing, try nothing, nothing you do will ever amount to anything, you just can't do it, you can't do it. Another part of me going, I can't go 1 second longer not giving my entire life to this planet because it's everything. It's everything. You can't do it, you're nothing. I have to do it, you can't do it. And I'm in the middle just going, oh, what's going to happen? And then I'm going, this is womankind over here. You're nothing, you can do nothing. It's like there's too many of us sitting there going, oh my God, this is desperate, but I can't do anything. When actually it's like, we're built for this because we are this planet. She's speaking through us, she's bellowing for us to wake up and do something. And we have no idea what we're capable of because we've brought about 2% of our femininity into the power structures of this world. And I don't mean women in government, I mean women who are women in government, women who are living the feminine in government, who aren't trying to outmen the man. We can do that. That's not the way. The men are as lost as we are. It's about reclaiming. It's about finding. So then I crashed my car into a tree, and I heard you have to reforest the tropics within 10 years. Women are the missing piece. The women are the womb carriers, and Earth is womb. Women have, we have the cycles of life and death in our bodies every month. We know that you can't live a linear life over a planet that is cyclical, that has seasons, that breathes, that has, she produces what she can, but you can't just mow over her because money matters more than life. We've got our world completely upside down because the feminine principle has been squashed in women, in consciousness. The planet, less than 3% of global giving goes to women on the planet. They are the life makers, the life creators. It's absolutely insane because money measures the success of these insane people who seem to think that you can live on a dead planet. So, sorry, I'm going on. I'll just say Three Sisters.
Three Sisters.
Three Sisters is, I'm just going to cry all day. Three Sisters is a feminine response to climate change. So, it's fucking hard. Nothing I can say about this is easy. Some would say it's a feminine reforestation revolution. Others would say, God, people say all sorts of things about it because it's complex. Because in the car crash, I was told you have to make it as normal to give back to nature as it currently is to take life for granted. I call that the shift from a consumer species to a restorer species. The awakening that reinstating the feminine principle, the relational aspect of ourselves, the part of us that is so distraught because we are severed from the life force of this miraculous planet out of which we arose, of which we're made. That part of us that when you are in relationship, you are in the deepest intimacy with all of creation, and you can do no harm because you realize you are this, we are this. It's not power over, it's power through, it's power with. So the reinstatement of the feminine principle will manifest as women rising and reclaiming what we actually are, not what we've been told, nothing to do with what we've been told or conditioned into, or you have to be this in order to stay safe, but what we actually are, which men haven't got a clue about either, because it's so far in our history that we've actually been able to bring our true leadership. That leadership then pointed towards the restoration of our world. And so our external symbol is tropical reforestation. We're currently planting 3.5 million trees a year, which sounds great until you know that we're losing between 14 and 40 million a day. And so can we normalize? Can we make it normal for everybody to start giving back? You have to. My husband would say you get to. There's only one way forward from here. I keep watching all these films and they just break my absolute heart that we are fighting this illogical fight to save everything that keeps us alive. And we're vilified and murdered and all the rest of it because we're trying to do the only thing that makes sense. Because big money or big oil, big whatever it is sitting there with its foot on the throat of the feminine, believing that it can dominate the crap out of us. Well, it can only do that while we still allow it. And that means, to me, we've got the biggest gauntlet ever thrown down to us by life, saying, are you going to remember who and what you are? Because you've got about 5 years left. And in that time, I believe we can astonish ourselves because we have no idea what we are capable of.
I was recently connecting with a friend who's, it's very Nevada City because she channels this specific guide. But the question was, what can we do for ourselves, for the planet, and even just around our own freedom? And we all know this too. Like everything lives within our sight and within ourselves. Like we already have the tools. We already can. It's accessing that power and the knowledge that lives within us, and also from lineages and ancestors from time prior. So thank you, Clare, for being part of this and the work that you are doing as well. It's really important. Teresa Baker came up here from the Bay Area to be with us again at Wild and Scenic Film Fest.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories. It's empowering to hear. I come from a family of 9. I have 8 brothers.
Where are you in the birth order?
I have 6 older brothers and 2 younger brothers.
Wow.
And at some stage in my life, they all tried to tell me how to be. But my father said to me, you're not special because you're a girl. You're special because you're my daughter. And he encouraged me at every step of the way to be what I wanted to be, not what society expected me to be. So I grew up as defiant as I wanted to be. And I think that lends itself to who I am today. I work on matters of diversity and inclusion in outdoor spaces. And I think that's vital simply because of the stories we've heard here today. All too often, the voice that is missing from this work are faces that look like me, are black and brown faces that are not represented in this audience, that aren't represented on your boards and your staff. And that is not, and I do not say this to be mean. I say that to be truthful and honest, because that's the only way we can make a difference. I am just encouraged. Every day I get up and I hear the horrible news that's taking place across this country, I'm excited because I already know I'm gonna make a difference. And I also know that through my voice and through my work, I will make a difference. And my hope is to encourage each and every one of you to believe that too. Because change starts from believing. You know, if we set out every morning and think, oh, all these odds are against me, we've already lost. So every morning that I wake up, I'm ready to take on the fight. Be it the government, be it NGOs, be it outdoor brands that tell me, shh. I don't listen to that. I'm already making a difference, and I know that. And I'm encouraged by the responses that I get from people across the country who reach out and say, can you come speak to our organization or our agency? I'm encouraged when I put out a blog blasting the National Park Service, who wouldn't respond to me for 2 years straight. And 15 minutes of me putting out that blog, I get a call from DC saying, if you continue, we will press charges against you. If you use our logo publicly, we will come after you. Good. That was a win for me. For 2 years straight, you ignored the hell out of me. And within 15 minutes of me publishing a blog publicly, you respond to me.
Wow.
And that what that said to me is that public pressure is a hell of a drug. And if we keep applying it, change will come. But it doesn't just come from publishing a blog. It comes from what some of you did today by marching out there in the streets, what some of the women across the country are doing today, talking mess to this administration. It comes from understanding that what we are all fighting for is the protection of these outdoor spaces. And I don't just want black and brown faces involved in this conversation for the sake of having black and brown faces involved in the conversation. The faces that are missing from the work of diversity and inclusion, environmental protection, are faces that look like me. So if you're not including us, in 15 to 20 years, if we get there, the number one demographic in this country will be faces of color, people of color. And if we are not involved in the fight today, we will not give a shit about what's happening out there. We don't care if they want to chop down 1 million redwoods to put up a housing development, because we don't have a connection with the land, so we won't care. Start involving us now. But do not walk away with the impression that we aren't already here in this fight. We have always been here in this fight. People of color, Native Americans, and please let me acknowledge the land that we are on, the Native American land in which we are on. We have always been here. Latino Americans have always been here. African Americans have always been here. The land has always been a source of life for us. So do not walk away thinking that people of color are not here or do not have a relationship. It's about reestablishing those relationships. So I encourage you all to take this message back to your NGOs, your government agencies, when they open. And make sure they understand the importance of including people of color in this work around the protection of the environment. That is the vital message that I would like to leave you with.
Teresa Baker. Malaika Bishop moved up here. How many years ago was it that you moved up here from Oakland?
I grew up here.
You grew up here. Did you
I grew
move?
up
And you
here,
moved to
I moved
Oakland.
I moved back about, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago.
Malaika Bishop of Sierra Harvest. Malaika.
Yeah,
Wait, where's
I had a mic.
where's the
went
handheld?
away. I don't know.
The handheld mic? Oh,
not working.
we're getting
Okay,
it.
here
We're
it comes.
grabbing it. It's important to have it. She's bringing it back? Okay. Here,
not
I'm gonna do
working.
this then. I'm going to give her mine.
You want me to give her mine?
No, I'll do this one. We'll figure it out. Technical. I've been talking long enough. The last couple days. Was it the Food Love Project, Malaika, that you created in Oakland?
No, People's
it called?
Grocery.
What was it called?
People's Grocery?
People's Grocery. Okay, down in Oakland.
We're not gonna, I guess we're just gonna do that. Second. Okay, thank you. So my name is Malaika Bishop, and I am, let's see, I grew up here in Nevada County during the birth of the organic food movement, on the farm that Peaceful Valley Farm Supply was created from. And my grandparents, both my grandmothers were farmers, and my grandparents were activists. They were involved in the civil rights movement. They were freedom riders, anti-nuclear activists, and so I always knew from a young age that I wanted to make the world a better place. And for me, that's always come back to food, because food is intimate to all of us. We all participate in the food economy every day. And the way we do that, the way we participate with our food, has a huge impact on our own health, the health of our air, the health of our water, the health of our climate. And when I was in college, I studied sustainable agriculture, and I also traveled around, and I went to, studying globalization and sustainable agriculture, and I went to countries all over the world looking for the place of greatest need so I could be of service. And they all said, you got to go back home to the belly of the beast and work there, because we need an economic system that is localized, that works for us. And so I ended up coming back home, and I landed in West Oakland, really working to build a localized food system to empower the community there. It was a community where we had 35 liquor stores and no full-service grocery store, and epidemic levels of obesity and diabetes and other food-related illnesses. And I was in my 20s, and we hired these high school youth, and we had a grocery store on wheels where we had urban gardens, and we grew a bunch of food together, and then we put it on this mobile grocery truck was run on biodiesel. It had solar panels that ran the refrigeration. We had like murals and hip hop music bumping, and we drove around the neighborhood selling healthy, organic, affordable food that we had grown in the neighborhood. And then I, kind of got to the age where I wanted to have kids and wanted to move back to my grandparents were here in Nevada County, and my parents were here, and the river was here. So I finally found someone who would move home with me, and I spent the first years here really diving into farming more. I ran an educational farm at the Woolman Semester School and grew all the food for a cafeteria where we had a peace and justice education program for high school youth, and worked on several different organic farms in the county. And now, speaking of women, somehow I'm leading an organization with about 15 women employees and 22 farm to school liaisons who also happen to all be women who are working in the schools to transform our food system here. So Sierra Harvest works to educate, inspire, and connect Nevada County families to fresh, local, seasonal food. We do that through working with kids in 33 schools, 7,000 youth. We also work on training aspiring farmers. We've now had almost 60 farmers come through our business planning and training programs so that they can grow our food for us for the future. And we also work with community members who don't have access to fresh organic food every day, and we support them by putting in gardens. We built 71 gardens in people's backyards and in neighborhood organizations that serve low-income people. And we provide starts and seeds and mentorship for 2 years because we know that you don't learn how to grow your own food overnight. And one of the gardens that we put in was at a school, Alta Sierra School, and there was a boy there named Aiden who was on the autistic spectrum, and he had a lot of sensitivities, and his mom was kind of at her wit's end because he would only eat 5 foods, all white, and they all had to be on separate plates or bowls, and if anything red was nearby, he wouldn't touch it. If he touched dirt or leaves or chalk or anything, he'd have to go wash his hands immediately. And she was just kind of feeling like a failure as a parent. And so around that time, we were able to put in a garden at Alta Sierra School, and his class started coming out every week to the garden. And the first little while, he wouldn't even go in the garden gate. He's like, I don't know. But eventually he came in and eventually started touching and feeling and actually tasting things from the garden. Wow. And at the end of that year, his mom was cooking sugar snap peas. And he came over and he grabbed a handful of peas out of the bag and started eating them. And she screamed. Her husband came running down going, what is going on? What's wrong? And this was the first time in Aiden's life that he had eaten a full serving of vegetables. Oh, wow. And this is because he had a connection. He had grown peas in that school garden. He had seen them grow over time. He had smelled them, touched them, and it wasn't just this foreign object in a plastic bag. He had a relationship with it, and that was a turning point in that family's life. He'll go now outside and play in the dirt for an hour at a time and bring his mom worms, and he ask for the fruits and vegetables that we have tastings in the classroom every month, and he'll ask for those things in his lunch. And it's transformed not only his relationship with food, but many young people that we've talked to have similar kind of developmental disabilities or seeing are having this shift by having a relationship to nature. And one thing that I've been learning about recently is the actual physical mechanism. There's this microbacteria vacui, and it is actually a bacteria which, if it gets in you from touching the dirt or breathing it, it gives you the same kind of response that taking what Prozac would give you. It increases the serotonin production. Serotonin's the hormone that makes you happy. And this is what happens, and this is the essential part of making sure that everyone has access to nature, is that when we're in this urban, crazy environment and looking at screens all the time, cortisol, which is this stress hormone, gets elevated to a really high level in our bodies. And when we go out in nature, and cortisol inhibits serotonin, the happy hormone, right? And so when we go out in nature, or if look at pictures of nature even, but especially if we really touch the dirt, that shift happens, and it impacts our health in so many ways that we don't even know. So,
Farm conference is coming up in February. What are the dates for that?
So February 7th through 9th, if you want to learn more about getting involved with growing and producing your local food, the Sustainable Food and Farm Conference, February 7th through 10th at Nevada Union High School. We have field days Thursday and Friday, keynote speakers on Saturday, and workshops all day Sunday. So I hope you can join us.
Awesome, like it. We're going to take a couple questions. What time is it, Brendan? I don't have my timekeeper people here.
We have a
I believe I saw that story
All right,
in
we're
that
going to do
film.
just a couple of quick
I
questions.
think that was last year.
From,
We have a new one
from
this
all of
year.
you for our entire panel. Yeah.
I don't remember your
For
name.
Bernadette.
Bernadette. I was in Washington, D.C. in 2007 representing the Audubon Society in order to stop them drilling on that area. There are so many flocks of birds all over the world, including our snow geese, that nest there. They're only there. So when that's drilled, they're gone. Not only did the herd with her go there, the herds all over Alaska go there. Because that's the only place they can calve where the calves aren't killed. If you see the flies, we're not talking, that's a state bird, the fly in Alaska. And they're vicious, they crawl up their nose, they kill them. The wolves don't go in that area because it's mud. They can't do that, so the calves are able to be born. And when they're born there, then they go back. Those caribou can travel millions of miles every year to get there. Why in the hell would they do that? Because they can live there. When they drill, they die. So we're going to lose the caribou, we're going to lose the snow geese, we're going to lose birds from all over the world when that one little parcel is there. In 2007, you should have seen Barbara Boxer. That woman is, she's a killer. It was during Bush's administration, and the Department of Interior was at the hearing. And she just let him in and said, what about that? And he said, well, that. Well, what about that? Well, what about that? And he answered, well, that, then how about that? Boom. And he didn't have an answer. So we stopped the drilling at that time. But then when what's-his-name came in, he started it. So we're doing it all over again.
So,
And it's one of the most important parts in the world, that one little spot she's talking about.
right. So, and thinking about that too, my question is, for Wild and Scenic, our focus, we showcase these issues that are many very dire, and the other outcome of that is though the solutions, like how all of you are showing up around this. So, quickly too, can you just speak to, in sharing around the caribou and your land, Bernadette, like thinking though is how we get out of bed every morning around this, to do something around it. You talked about, really just for your own self coming into your own. Can you speak to how you're coping with that, and then looking at solutions around that and how we can support you? And then I'll ask that to each of you, and we'll do it in And I don't have my timekeeper here, so we'll,
Okay. So,
Angie can keep us on task. Okay.
well,
How much
like,
time? We should be you said it's 2:11?
It's about 2:15.
Oh, 2:15? Yeah, so wrapping it up within the next 10 minutes. Pretty good.
so, well, like I said, it's been really hard. It's been like an uphill battle because they're just still pushing forward regardless of how toxic this is going to be for Alaska. I encourage everybody to contact their senators, their representatives, call and write to Sea Exploration. I just literally went to Houston, Texas last week. They are the only seismic testing company that wants to go, the only company that wants to go into the Arctic Refuge. There's been a lot of people that don't want this. Over 70% of Americans do not want development in the coastal plain. The Sea Exploration people, I have never been treated so poorly and disrespectful in my life. When I went there, I went and I asked to meet with them because they refused 250,000 letters from us. They refused a comment. They're just really dismissing us. I would encourage everybody to contact their congressmen, their senators, write letters to the editor, and definitely kind of focus on the big banks. We're asking them not to fund any activity in the Arctic Refuge. Barclays actually just came out publicly stating they will not put any funding towards that. So our voices are being heard. We need help, and we need your guys' help. So, like I said, we're all in this together, and our children, they deserve to see the world as it was in the beginning, not just when we're done with it. So those are many ways. You can also go to our website, ourarcticrefuge.org, and we also have a Facebook page, the Gwich'in Steering Committee. So you guys are more than welcome to
Our Arctic Refuge.
Our Arctic, OurArcticRefuge.org. Ourarcticrefuge.org.
And Bernadette, you're also going to be here as well, right? In the virtual reality lounge at KBMR.
I'm actually
there,
leaving
you
right after this.
You are? Okay.
Yes, I'm going home. I travel quite a bit, and I have 2 small children.
You need to be home with your
Yeah.
kids. I totally get that. Thank you, Bernadette. Catherine, how about for you?
Well, I think in order to lift up what we're doing, it would be very helpful to for people to get in touch with me that know about these issues in other rural communities, because that's the only way we're going to be able to address them. What I'm hoping that we do not do is to have an event in Lowndes County where they put in on-site septic systems that are going to fail, because it's a complex problem. Our soils hold water, and we also have a high water table. There was just an article a few weeks ago in Florida where they're advocating for the removal of on-site septics because they're leaching into the groundwater and causing algae blooms, which is killing a lot of the animals in the sea, as well as causing health conditions that they're not even surveying for right now. So what we're advocating for in terms of solutions is new technologies. We feel that if they can treat wastewater in outer space, we can find something where we can treat it here on Earth. So, and that's what we're advocating.
Right. Thanks, Catherine. Claire.
What was the question?
Well, we're talking about solutions.
Oh.
And how does that apply to the work that you're doing with Tree Sisters? And we're doing it in like the 1 minute time. Bam, bam, bam.
1 minute.
Well, the obvious thing with Tree Sisters is we're trying to normalize giving back. So we're trying to reforest the tropical forest belt because it is the primary cooler of the planet. So when you join us and start giving, then you're funding trees in Madagascar and India, Nepal, Brazil, Cameroon, Kenya, probably some others that I'm now forgetting. But also you join a support group of women where we are holding hands and holding hearts. We meditate consistently together. We're trying to, I've got to stop saying trying, we're weaving ourselves back together. We model everything on the wisdom of the forest floor. That understanding that there is no separation, that if we act like separate trees, which we are not, then we're going to keep competing. But if we actually act like the forest teaches us and start to bring our strengths and our abilities together. When women come together, suddenly everything starts to feel possible. So it's gathering. It's really gathering, and it's giving back, and it's also, we run courses. I'm constantly giving out tools. The subtle side of Tree Sisters, we call it the in-breath and the out-breath. The in-breath being the deep meditation work, the internal consciousness shift work. We really do consciousness shift in a profound way inside of Tree Sisters that works, that takes us from apathy and immobility and insecurity. Time's up. To, oh, that's what you're doing. It's like, oh, she knows the Tree Sisters map. But no, she's telling me to shut up. Join Tree Sisters, treesisters.org. It's nice and simple. It'll give you an awful lot and an awful lot of support.
Thanks, Claire. Teresa.
Speak up and act up. That's my advice to you guys. We're too quiet often, and one voice can make a difference. I created a pledge. It's the Outdoor CEO Diversity Pledge, where I've asked CEOs of outdoor brands and retailers to commit to the work of diversity and inclusion, and several have signed. So one person can make a difference, and I just encourage you all to continue to speak up and act up and understand that this is not about us. It's about those who will come after us.
Right, right. All right. And last question. This is the lightning round. In one word, what is your superpower? Teresa.
My voice.
My love.
Prayer.
My grandson.
Nice. Can we give it up for these amazing women? Catherine Flowers, Bernadette, Clare, Teresa, for joining us here. Thank you so much for taking the time. Safe travels to all of you who traveled here. I know you're taking off soon, Bernadette, so appreciate you taking the time to be here, for all of you being here. Thank you so much. Happy Women's March Day, everybody. Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for being patient, too.
So I can get the mics on.